has to do that. We also need leadership from her. Oh, that is going to be a foul on Jewel Lloyd, and they're going to take a look at that.
Yeah, that might be upgraded. See, Jewel, as she was fighting over, I think felt that she got hit, but then she just went right in. You'll have a chance to see it on this replay.
Minimum, it'll be a personal foul on Jewel Lloyd, but could be more.
Some losses feel different. They don't just sting. They burn, they leave a scar that tells a story, a brand that forever marks a turning point. For the Indiana Fever, the final buzzer of Game 5 against the Las Vegas Aces wasn't just the end of a season, it was the beginning of a war. This wasn't a simple defeat on a scoreboard. It felt like a heist, a meticulously planned robbery executed in plain sight under the blinding lights of a semifinal showdown. And in the middle of the ensuing silence and disbelief stood Lexie Hull, a player whose quiet, dignified words after the game spoke with more thunder than any angry tirade ever could. Because what the world watched that night wasn't just a team losing a basketball game. It was a team being systematically stripped of a victory they had earned through blood, sweat, and a sheer indomitable force of will, only to have it ripped away by a series of whistles that felt less like judgment calls and more like predetermined outcomes. This is the story of how a stolen game, a moment of profound injustice, accidentally forged the WNBA's next powerhouse.
You feel like this game, between the adversity but also the resilience, was just like a microcosm of this whole season? And did that, in a way, like, you're like, oh, we've been here before?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Steph said in the huddle. Like, we're built for this moment. When Kelsey went down, and then we're challenging the call on AB. We've been here before, so it's just so unlucky, so crazy that had to happen tonight.
To truly grasp the sheer audacity of what happened in Game 5, you have to rewind. You have to remember that the Indiana Fever weren't even supposed to be breathing this playoff air. This was a team that had been ravaged by injuries, a walking MAS asterisk H unit that seemed cursed from the start. They had a staggering 6 season-ending injuries on their roster, forcing the front office to patch together a functioning lineup using hardship contracts, the basketball equivalent of using duct tape and hope to hold an engine together. Their most important player, the generational talent and league-altering superstar Caitlin Clark, was a ghost for most of the season, sidelined by injuries that limited her to a mere 13 games.
The ball goes up. Aaliyah Boston.
I don't think that's a foul.
To Indiana, and a late loose ball foul is called against.
Are you joking me?
Without Clark, the media wrote them off. They were the 6th seed, an afterthought, a feel-good story that was destined for a swift and merciful first-round exit. Pundits praised their heart but dismissed their chances. But under the steady guidance of Coach Stephanie White, they refused to follow the script. They didn't just survive, they thrived on being underestimated. They fought, they clawed, and they played with a chip on their shoulder the size of Indianapolis. They shocked the league by not just winning a playoff series, but by advancing all the way to the semifinals to face the final boss, the reigning 2-time champions, the fully loaded, star-studded Las Vegas Aces. They were playing with house money, and that made them unbelievably dangerous.
That shit was rigged. Like, the Indiana Fever fought so hard, but like, they literally had 8 injured players. They had 8 injured players, and Aaliyah Boston fouled out for phantom fouls, and they still got to overtime. Like, you can't deny that. Like, you can't, like, the Indiana, they did everything in their power to try to rig that game in regulation, and Indiana just didn't go away.
But from the very first tip-off of the series, a strange and unsettling narrative began to form. It felt like the Fever weren't just playing 5-on-5 against the Aces, they were playing 5-on-8, with the referees acting as a constant, subtle impediment. It wasn't one single catastrophic bad call, but a slow, maddening drip of questionable whistles that consistently tilted the scales. It was a pattern that observant fans picked up on immediately, and by Game 3, the media couldn't ignore it either. Every time Indiana built a sliver of momentum, a soft foul would be called, stopping their run cold. Every time they made a crucial defensive stand, a whistle would bail out a Vegas drive, sending an Aces player to the free throw line. The free throw disparity across the first few games games was jarring. It wasn't just about the points, it was about controlling the rhythm and energy of the game. It was death by 1,000 cuts, a subtle but persistent pressure that seemed designed to keep the underdog on a leash. The frustration building within the Fever locker room wasn't with their own play, it was with a game that felt fundamentally frustratingly unfair.
Boston do this. Just back her way down. Typically, players do not go down when she makes that contact here. Gustafson goes, gets the foul call.
Nowhere was this pattern more obvious or more infuriating than in the officiating of Aaliyah Boston. The Fever's all-star center, a dominant, old-school physical force in the paint, was treated by the officials as if she were made of delicate glass. Throughout the series, she was whistled for the softest touch fouls imaginable, minor contact that happens on every single possession in the post, the kind of contact that is simply the price of doing business under the basket. She was effectively neutralized, her greatest strengths turned into liabilities. She couldn't play her signature brand of powerful physical basketball without the constant fear of another foul being added to her name. It was psychological warfare. You could see her start to hesitate, to pull back just a fraction, which is all it takes to lose an edge at this level. It felt like the referees had a target on her back, determined to limit her impact by any means necessary. Meanwhile, players on the other end were allowed to be far more physical with Indiana's guards, creating a bizarre and infuriating double standard that left everyone watching, including the broadcast commentators, baffled.
This is some bull crap. They're going to just shove Lexie Hull and then say that's a common foul. Like, this is not unnecessary force. Are you kidding me? If this how this game's going to go, like, I'm sick just watching Lexie Hull get beat up.
And while Boston was being systematically dismantled by the whistle, the Fever's offensive engine, Kelsey Mitchell, was being dismantled by brute force. All series long, Mitchell was subjected to a level of physical defense that bordered on assault. She was held, grabbed, jersey tugged on cuts, and hip checked on her drives to the basket. Defenders were draped all over her, using their forearms to impede her progress, a clear foul in any rulebook. Yet, the whistles remained stubbornly, deafeningly silent. It was as if the concept of a defensive foul simply ceased to exist when she had the ball in her hands. She fought through the constant contact, game after game, putting the team on her back and absorbing the punishment. But there's only so much a human body can take. The lack of calls wasn't just affecting the scoreboard, it was taking a severe physical toll, an accumulation of bumps and bruises that would eventually reach a devastating breaking point.
3 things I didn't like. Look at that. Smacked her arm and her entire body. Honestly, could have been a flagrant foul. Look at this. And she's gonna scream like she got all ball, like she's so excited. Like, anybody could go through somebody's entire body and get a block shot. Like, you should be seeing if she's okay. Gosh dang. And then, why do they hit Howard in the face, but they don't review these and give him technicals like they do on the Fever? And then we all saw that one. They called that a basketball play. Bull crap.
This all brought us to Game 5, the winner-take-all showdown in Las Vegas. The energy in the arena was electric, the stakes couldn't have been higher, and the tension that had been simmering over the previous 4 games was about to boil over and explode. The Indiana Fever, the team of misfits and hardship contracts, stood one improbable win away from the WNBA Finals, but from the opening minutes, it became terrifyingly clear that this game was going to be different. The subtle, creeping bias of the previous games was gone. In its place was a series of calls so glaringly, unapologetically one-sided that the game began to feel like a farce. The Fever weren't just in a basketball game anymore, they were in a street fight where their opponent had the referee in their corner, ready to step in at any moment.
For fire, she's our battery. She's moving great and she will drive us, and that's been true so far.
Thank you, Hal. Sims, pull-up jumper, she got it.
For Aaliyah Boston, the game quickly devolved into a personal nightmare. Early in the second half, with the game still tight, she was hit with one of the softest, most laughable moving screen calls you will ever witness. A replay showed she had established her position and barely grazed the defender, who sold the contact with an exaggerated flail. The whistle blew instantly, A few minutes later, an Aces player drove the lane, lost control, and threw herself to the floor as Boston stood her ground. It was a dive that would have made a World Cup soccer star blush with envy, and of course the refs rewarded it, slapping Boston with an offensive foul. It was infuriating to watch. You could see the frustration boiling over in her eyes as she was being systematically taken out of the biggest game of her career for plays that weren't even fouls.
Can't hit the mid-range. Mitchell pursues the board. Another chance for Indiana. That's been a theme in the early going. Mitchell a three is good. More second chance point.
Right around the rim.
Mitchell an open look. She got it from three. And it
Then came the knockout blow, the moment the heist became undeniable. With just 26 seconds left in regulation and the game hanging on a razor's edge, a shot went up. Boston, doing what she does best, battled for crucial rebound position against Jackie Young. A whistle pierced the arena noise. The referee signaled the foul on Boston, her sixth, her last. She was out of the game. A look of pure, unadulterated disbelief washed over her face. The Fever bench erupted. Coach White immediately challenged the call, a desperate plea for anyone, to see what the entire world saw. Two players simply fighting for position, a textbook basketball play. The arena held its breath as the officials reviewed the play, but it was a fool's hope. The call stood. Jackie Young calmly sank the free throws. Vegas took the lead, and Indiana's leader, their anchor in the paint, was forced to watch the final critical moments from the bench. It was a gut punch. A moment that felt less like officiating and more like a targeted execution.
And back in a zone, that twofold.
Mitchell connects on a three. And Kelsey.
As if losing their star center in the most critical moment wasn't devastating enough, the Fever had already lost their star guard. Midway through the third quarter, Kelsey Mitchell, who had been a blazing inferno, torching the Aces for 15 points on perfect shooting from deep, suddenly collapsed. After draining yet another three-pointer, a brief moment of elation was replaced with horror as she grabbed at her leg, her body finally surrendering to the relentless physicality and the resulting severe cramps. She couldn't even walk. She had to be helped off the court and taken straight to the locker room. The image of their offensive leader, the one who had fought through so much uncalled contact, being carried away, unable to continue, was heartbreaking. It was a brutal, symbolic moment. It felt like the universe and the officials who enabled the punishment she endured were conspiring to break this team's spirit once and for all.
Here's Sims. Weaving, Hull dishing, Boston lays it in.
With their two biggest stars gone, one fouled out by a series of phantom calls, the other broken down by uncalled hacks, any normal team would have folded. The game was over. The season was over. It was time to pack it in. But the 2025 Indiana Fever are not a normal team. In the face of overwhelming adversity with their backs against the wall and the entire world seemingly against them, something truly incredible happened. Heroes emerged from the chaos, and it all started with a player who wasn't even on the roster for most of the season. Odyssey Sims, signed on a hardship contract to literally just fill a jersey, Sims suddenly transformed from a temporary patch into the team's avenging angel.
Lob it in, Howard. Out to Hull. 6 to shoot. Hull banks it in.
But it wasn't just the stat line. After the game, Hull stepped forward as one of the strongest.
She became the thumping, defiant heartbeat of the Fever's impossible stand. Sims played with a fearless, relentless energy that bordered on superhuman. She poured in 27 points and dished out 6 assists, attacking the rim again and again with a ferocity that the Aces couldn't handle. She finished through contact that, true to the theme of the night, the officials consistently refused to reward with a whistle. With the game, the season, and her team's pride on the line in the dying seconds of regulation, it was Sims who took the ball, blew past her defender, and laid it in, tying the score and sending an impossible game into overtime. She wasn't just playing well, she was sending a message carved in fire. You can take our stars, you can take the calls, but you will not take our fight.
I mean, I think that's something we can take away from this season. Obviously, ending on the loss is hard, and not what you want, but I do think that we can be proud of the effort we put out there, especially in the fourth quarter, you know, losing Aaliyah, losing Kelsey. I don't even know if that was the third or fourth quarter. But two of our biggest stars go down and we continue to fight and send it to overtime. So I think that's, you know, we're proud of ourselves. We're proud of that fight. And it's just sad to see this group.
And right there in the center of that fire, as she had been all season, was Lexie Hull. Playing through a debilitating back injury that would have sidelined most other players, Hull was the living, breathing embodiment of grit. She put up 12 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and was a defensive menace, flying into passing lanes and diving for loose balls. But her biggest contribution couldn't be found on any stat sheet. It was her unyielding toughness. Late in the game, she was blatantly shoved to the ground by Jewell Loyd, a play so egregious that fans and commentators alike expected an immediate flagrant foul review. It was the kind of shove that starts fights in a pickup game. Nothing was called. She just got back up, dusted herself off, and kept playing. Hull was the soul of this team's resilience, a player who simply refused to be broken.
The stats have not been gaudy, but the decision-making has been excellent tonight from Greg.
Yes.
Petty, they need it. They've got it. Timeout.
After the devastating overtime loss, the media scrum surrounded the exhausted Fever players. The world wanted a soundbite. They wanted anger. They wanted someone to scream about the referees. The original video that inspired this one was titled "Lexie Hull Breaks Silence," framing it as if she was about to unload on the league. But what she actually said was infinitely more powerful. When asked about the heartbreaking loss, she didn't complain. She didn't blame the officials. Instead, with a voice thick with exhaustion but ringing with pride, she said this: "Ending on a loss is hard, but I do think that we can be proud of the effort we put out there, especially in the fourth quarter. Losing Aaliyah, losing Kelsey, two of our biggest stars go down, and we continue to fight and send it to overtime. So I think that we're proud of ourselves. We're proud of that fight. That wasn't breaking silence about corruption. It was breaking silence about her team's profound, unbreakable character. In that moment of defeat, her statement of pride was a more damning indictment of the night's injustice than any angry rant ever could have been."
Hey, you know, it's sad. I think, especially when you push a game to overtime and you fight for so long, your expectations are to win, obviously. And so to lose is sad, but I think arm in arm, all of us together, we can look at each other and be proud of each other. So it's a moment of love for sure.
That defiant pride is what fueled their impossible comeback in the first place. After Boston was unjustly exiled to the bench and Mitchell was carried off the court, the Fever stared into the abyss and refused to blink. Odyssey Sims took the reins. Shea Petty hit clutch, soul-lifting threes to keep them alive, and Lexie Hull provided the defensive grit that held them together. They erased the deficit. They clawed their way back, possession by possession. When Sims's final layup dropped through the net to tie the game at the end of regulation, it was a moment of pure, unadulterated will. They had pushed the two-time defending champions to overtime with a roster of backups and hardship contracts after being systematically dismantled by the officiating. It was, without exaggeration, one of the gutsiest performances in recent WNBA history.
We can win. This is a 0-0 game, 5 minutes. We do those situations in practice. I mean, it took everyone. I mean, O had an incredible night tonight. People just stepped up, and I think, you know, when we were starting that overtime, we all five, everyone on the bench, playing or not, we believed we were going to win that game. So I think that just goes to show you that we believe in each other and in ourselves, and yeah, and I'm just so proud of this group.
In overtime, the exhaustion and the overwhelming odds finally caught up to them. You can't play 5-on-8 forever. The adrenaline wore off and the tired legs showed. A jumper fell just short. A defensive rotation was a split second too slow. The Aces, given a new life they hadn't earned, finally smelled blood in the water and pulled away. The final scoreboard showed a loss for the Indiana Fever, but everyone who watched that game, everyone with eyes and a soul, knew the truth. This wasn't a defeat, it was a testament. They didn't lose because they were outplayed. They lost because they were finally worn down by a battle fought on two fronts, one against a championship caliber team, and another against the very people meant to ensure a fair and just game.
How much did this continue to build that foundation for what the Fever can be next year, the year after, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we have a lot of the same players back. You know, it's pro sports is another weird one where every season is different, teams look different, but I think every new player we had this season came into the locker room and felt that connectedness and added to it. So we were really lucky that we had built such a great culture here, and that'll continue year after year.
And that right there is why this loss wasn't an ending. It was the birth of the WNBA's next great rivalry and its next potential dynasty. This team, this core group of fighters, just went toe-to-toe with the league's best and pushed them to the absolute limit while being shorthanded, hobbled, and outrageously officiated. They now have scar tissue. They have a shared traumatic experience of being robbed, and that kind of profound injustice creates a bond and a burning hunger that you can't replicate in practice. They now know without a single shadow of a doubt that they belong in the championship conversation. Now project this into the future. Imagine this battle-hardened, resilient group that learned how to compete at the highest level without their superstar. And now add a fully healthy, rested, and motivated Caitlin Clark back into that mix. Add her generational scoring, her otherworldly court vision, and her notoriously fierce competitive fire to a team that has already proven its toughness is beyond question. Aaliyah Boston will come back with a giant chip on her shoulder, ready to dominate. Kelsey Mitchell will be healthy and ready for revenge. And Lexie Hull will be there, the gritty, beating heart of it all. What the league and its officials did in Game 5 wasn't crush the Indiana Fever, they accidentally created a monster. They gave a young, hungry, and supremely talented team the one thing they were missing, a righteous, unifying reason to burn the entire league to the ground. The Fever's championship window isn't years down the line, it's swinging open right now. So I have to ask you, what do you think? Was this the most frustrating and blatant officiating display of the entire season, or was it the exact moment the Indiana Fever proved to the world and to themselves that they are ready to take over this league? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping the world of sports. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.